is, and our troops are surrounded right now at the airport. This is bringing a rare moment of bipartisanship on Capitol Hill right now, which is taking the White House to the woodshed on the chaotic withdrawal. We're going to get reaction from both sides of the aisle. In a moment, we're going to hear from Republican Congressman Mark Green. First, the Democratic side, Congressman Jake AUCHINCLOSS, retired Marine who commanded an infantry unit in Afghanistan. Congressman, we appreciate you joining us. Thank you. I read your op-ed in the Washington Post today. I know you are in favor of the withdrawal and the decision to get out. Are you okay with how that decision has been executed?
No withdrawal from a country whose moniker is the graveyard of empires is going to be a ticker tape parade. This was always going to be rocky. But the United States military has brought order to chaos and done what it always does best. It is evacuating 1,000 people an hour. We will get all the Americans who want to get out by August 31st, and they have security in hand at the airport. That does not mean it's not a highly risky situation. It absolutely is. But after a very hard first 24 hours at HKIA, the U.S. military is evacuating people at a rapid clip. This is one of the most impressive airlift operations in history.
No question, there's no greater force for good in the world than the United States military. But aside from one or two helicopter missions a couple of hundred yards from the airport, the military is confined to the airport because of Biden administration orders. They take orders, and I know you did know that better than anybody as a Marine. Should there have been better planning to prevent the disaster that we saw of 24 hours of chaos and people falling from planes?
There's going to be a robust after-action review, but there is no seamless way to leave a country of 30 million people that's being taken over by a regime like the Taliban. This president came into office facing a wrenching decision. He could either go big or go home. He could surge tens of thousands of more troops to prepare for a third decade of conflict in the height of the Taliban fighting season, or he could hand Afghanistan over to the Afghans. And he made the high-integrity decision to call an end to counterinsurgency. This is what winding down a two-decade war is going to look like.
Yeah, it's been said there's no elegant way to lose a war, especially a 20-year war. I know Congressman Green's coming up on the other side, and he's going to say, oh, no, there was a third option where you could have kept 5,000 or 10,000 U.S. troops on the ground, continued to support the Afghan military with helicopter and with close air support and with military contractors, continued to supply them. That would have kept the morale up, continued to pay them. That would have kept all of the grift and graft from taking over the military. And we could have had a third option and kept the Taliban from taking over.
And what end game? That sounds like a third decade of a counterinsurgency boondoggle begun under George W. Bush and Donald Rumsfeld. For counterinsurgency to work, you've got to have a governance that can provide confidence in the rule of law, basic services, and a civil society in which combatants can beat their arms into plows. That worked in Colombia. They had a president who was a Nobel laureate. Okay, the Afghan president fled at the first sign of the Taliban. This was not going to happen in Afghanistan. There was none of the ingredients of a successful counterinsurgency. In situation room after situation room for the last 2 decades, smarter people than me have known that this was the first president with the integrity to tell that truth to the American people.
Well, he has certainly stood by his decision, unquestionably. Seth Moulton and Representative Meyer, both veterans from opposite sides of the aisle, headed over to Kabul to report back and on what they called an oversight trip, and then the speaker was not exactly happy. Take a listen.
There's a real concern about members being in the region. This is deadly serious. We do not want members to go.
I'm wondering if you thought their trip was brave or stupid or selfish.
My approach to oversight and fact-finding has been to have an open line of communication with the White House and to attend the classified security briefings. I think that's been the most productive way to ascertain the facts on the ground and to hold the White House and the military accountable. We need to have a presumptive declassification of all decision-making for the last 20 years. Congress needs to lead an investigation into how this war was waged, the decisions that went into prolonging it, and yes, how the withdrawal was executed.
We know the Senate Armed Services Committee is going to have one Democrat-controlled, and when the House does come back and talk to us about it, sir, will you?
Yes.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Thank you again for your service and perspective. All right, now to the other side. The congressman from Tennessee, Mark Green, served 30 years in